How is your mental health this holiday season? Are you feeling a little stressed, anxious, maybe a little depressed? If so, you are not alone. For many people, their mental health really dips this time of year. On today's To Your Wellbeing, we're joined by Cone Health's Dr. David Gutterman to talk about things that you can do to help keep your emotions balanced during the holidays. All right, so let's first talk about this, self-care. We hear about self-care all the time.
Right.
Self-care when it comes to mental well-being, especially during the hustle and bustle, just how important is it?
It is vitally important. It's not only important all year round, but especially at this time of year. And Tanya, self-care really means taking care of yourself both emotionally and physically. As we know, those things are very much tied together. So it's vitally important to have a healthy, good holiday season. We need to take care of ourselves.
All right, and so sometimes self-care to some people means treat yourself. So let's make the differentiation, right? Because let's review some self-care strategies that can help people stay mentally grounded during the holiday season.
Right. Well, every year I talk about expectations because it's so vitally important that we set reasonable expectations. So many people go into the holiday season with very unrealistic expectations of themselves as well as their families. So spend a few minutes ahead of the season to think about what you want it to be like and what's reasonable to expect. It's important to stay focused again on the meaning of the holiday. What does the holiday mean to you? And putting that first and foremost out front so that you don't get sidetracked with other meaningless things that will derail you from the true meaning of the holiday. I often suggest keeping a gratitude list, those things for which we're grateful for, to remind yourself. During the most frustrating of times, we can all benefit by taking a look at those things in our lives for which we're very grateful. Make sure you get some rest during the holiday season. People tend to run themselves ragged all the way up until the holiday, and then they have a difficult time enjoying it because they're so fatigued and they're so tired. So just employing a few of these simple strategies can really make for a better season.
Okay, so those are the things that you should be doing, like the reasonable expectation. Now, there's probably some things that people should avoid that will probably help them decrease their stress and be good for self-care, but might actually make things worse. They think that they're good, but they're actually not good.
Well, as you might guess, toward the top of that list, people sometimes use the holiday season as a way to anesthetize themselves with substances, alcohol. And while it's nice to be able to enjoy the season with your favorite beverage, it is important to keep in mind moderation. And the moderation really goes for everything, eating as well. So moderation both in terms of consumption of food as well as alcohol. Those are things that sometimes can really derail the season for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And people often go into the holidays, thinking about moderation, not overdoing it. I just spoke to someone the other day who went into their office, and she had was so determined, this holiday season to keep her weight where she wanted it to be, and there was cake everywhere, and she was eating and eating and felt horrible, and then emotionally beats herself up for several days. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of what works best for you, and be careful about staying in your lane in terms of moderation. And I would also say one other thing is we often feel like if we take responsibility for everyone's happiness, that somehow that's going to make things better. Don't take on that responsibility. You're not responsible for everyone else's happiness. Make sure that you again have reasonable expectations of what you can do.
Right, you're not pizza. You can't make everybody happy. That's just not going to be possible. Okay, so what should people do instead when they're starting to feel that stress and that anxiety coming on, and they really need to prevent it from escalating?
Well, all of us have our own strategies, right? That we know works for us. Now, something like exercise, of course, I want to say that is because there is such a strong link between physical exercise and being a stress buster and really helping reduce stress. So it doesn't have to be excessive. It can be, taking a walk, just getting outside, or some moderate type of exercise. But that doesn't work for everybody. For some people, it's listening to music or reading. It might be calling a trusted friend or someone you haven't spoken to for a long time, and you just want to connect. These are things you can do. You can usually see if things are starting to get tense, the stress is starting to get to you. Generally, you can see that coming. So what I suggest is as early in that process as possible. As soon as you're starting to feel it, uh, engage in one of these activities, something that you know just helps relax you. Sometimes it means disengaging for a little bit, having to go to another room, or sometimes, again, leaving the house for a drive, go look at the Christmas lights somewhere, something like that,
Hmm.
just to take a break for a few minutes.
It can be something very, very simple. Okay. All right. So, what we're going
Absolutely.
to do is we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be right back. And we're going to be talking more about mental health, wellness, especially here in the month of December. We're back with Dr. David Gutterman from Cone Health. He's talking about all things self-care and mental health for today's To Your Well-Being. All right, let's talk about, as a parent or caregiver, what self-care prevention strategies can you do maybe with your kids that will help teach them some really good habits?
Well, first and foremost, keep in mind that we're always modeling for our kids, right? So they're watching us interact with our relatives and families. So you want to make sure that, certainly in front of the children, that you model good behavior and strategies for taking care of yourself, because again, they will witness and they will see that. I think it's important during the holiday time too to be inclusive with your kids. I think that's a good mental health strategy, to make sure that everyone's engaged and involved with families. So, for example, you don't want the television. No offense, you don't want the television to be the babysitter for the kids, or the video games and the computer. Be inclusive. Include them in conversation. Have conversations that they can be involved with. That's age appropriate at whatever ages they happen to be, and create activities that they can be involved with. That will also help them feel a part of things, and much less likely to act out.
Okay. All right. So, but if you think someone is struggling, a friend, a
Mhm.
loved one, family member, what should you do? Should you try talking with them about it? And if so, how do you approach that conversation? And how do you know when to stop? Because I think that's difficult too.
Right. I think it is very important that if you have a friend or a family member who it's obvious to you is struggling, to inquire, to ask, and you ask permission. That you let them know how you're experiencing them, and why it is it's your impression that they might be struggling, and ask them if you care very much about them, and that you'd like to open the opportunity for them to share with you what's going on. It's always worth risking. It sometimes feels intrusive, but it's worth risking, letting someone know, out of your love and out of your care for them, that you're concerned, and to open the door for them. If it goes too far, if someone feels like you're being intrusive, they generally will let you know, and it will not be that subtle. They'll let you know that they're uncomfortable with it. And most importantly, it's vital that people understand that there is help out there, and there are lots of resources right here in our community to be helpful to people.
And I guess that's kind of like my follow-up question. At what point do you think someone should consider it is time maybe that you reach out to a professional person for help?
Right. I think that when it's persistent, when the symptoms, whatever those symptoms happen to be. So if it's someone is looks especially depressed or especially anxious, something like that, and if it's persistent, not just in the moment, or that day or that evening, and it's really starting to interfere with their interactions, it's starting to interfere with their quality of life day to day. That's when you reach out. You don't, like with most things medical, you don't want to wait until the symptoms are extreme. You're starting to struggle, starting to have a difficult time, you reach out, you speak to a professional. If it's something that's really minor and can be addressed quickly, that's great. Or if you don't need help at the time, that's terrific. But again, better to err in the direction of seeking some assistance.
All right, we got about a minute left or so. What resources are available? I mean, because there's a lot of folks who I wouldn't even know what to do. I wouldn't know who to call. I wouldn't know where to turn.
Well, in an emergency type of a situation, if it's someone who you feel is in danger to themselves, or something of that severity, of course, is the 988 hotline that one can call. Guilford County Behavioral Health um, Urgent Care has 24/7 coverage. So at any time, day or night, you can go to the facility or call a facility and reach out for help. Again, especially evenings, weekends for more emergent situations. Cone Health and LeBauer Healthcare, we have psychological services available in person as well as virtually. So that's an important thing to remember as well. So access is much easier than it's ever been before, so that you can reach out, meet someone online, a professional online, and have a conversation, share your situation, and then make a game plan from there. So there are several avenues people.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and your expertise today, and for reminding us that we do need to make sure we have good self-care, especially during this time of year. You can find a full recap from today's Q&A on WFMY News 2 in just a few moments. You're going to click in the To Your Well-Being section.